Think of a time when you heard the words, "Thank you for your service." As members of the military, we are often thanked and praised for the service we give to our country. In a recent poll, 78% of U.S. adults say that members of the armed services contribute a lot to society's well-being. In that same poll, military members currently ranked above any other profession in regards to creating well-being for the society. This perception of positive outlook towards the military has not always been so virtuous. During the Vietnam War, there was a lot of opposition and open protest against the Vietnam War. This opposition only increased when our involvement in Vietnam increased, and it even had an effect on politics as President Johnson decided to take himself out of re-election. This negative attitude towards the Vietnam War had a poor outcome on the soldiers coming home from Vietnam. The American public criticized and ridiculed these soldiers when they came home. They called them murderers or drug addicts. Now I want you to put yourself in the head of a U.S. soldier in Vietnam fighting the war. Whether you wanted to go or not, you're putting your life on the line every day for a cause that you might not agree on, but you do it because that's your duty and that's what you're told to do. And imagine how you might feel when you come home after experiencing what you had and the American public criticize you for what you did. W.D. Earhart was one of these veterans that came home. He experienced a lot of heartbreak and experienced firsthand the realities of war and how traumatic it actually can be. And he had a tough time dealing with this, so he turned to literature as refuge to talk about how he felt and portray different messages that he learned on his way. One poem that captures his sentiment of the Vietnam War is Guns. In this poem, titled Guns, Earhart wrote about an interaction between a father and a daughter. And in the beginning of the poem, it starts out quite simply where the daughter and father are talking about a gun that the father used during the Vietnam War. And then the mood of the poem changes to one of frustration, where the father says, "Because she doesn't know." He continues to say, "How do you tell a 4-year-old what steel can do to flesh?" He's talking about the war and how little his daughter knows. The mood then shifts to one of anger, where the father says, "How explain a world where men kill other men deliberately and call it love of country?" The father sees a flaw in this idea that men go to war bravely fighting, putting their life on the line every day to serve the country and to show love for the country. He doesn't like this idea and thinks it's irrational and he doesn't understand it. The mood of the poem then shifts to one of realization, where the father says he has no choice, or else he would send her into the world wide-eyed and ignorant. He's talking about his daughter. He realizes maybe not now is the best time to tell her, but sometime down the road he has to tell his daughter what he experienced in war, the traumatic effects it left on him, or else he's going to send her into the world ignorant, not thinking critically about her decisions and acting blindly. Then the father says, where yet another generation is rudely about to discover what their fathers never told them. And in this moment of the poem, we realize that the father wasn't told of the experiences of war, and he had to understand firsthand what the realities of war were actually like. And we can see Earhart in this father of the poem, because Earhart was a member of the Marines, and he was eager to fight when he went to Vietnam, and he was ready to defend his country. And he discovered firsthand how terrible war was, and he had a lot of traumatic experiences, and he doesn't wish this upon anyone else. In this poem, the father represents an older generation, and the daughter represents the youth. And Earhart thinks the older generation has an obligation to teach the younger ones about the realities of war. He wants the youth to think critically about their actions and not act blindly when they're making decisions. Earhart and his comrades received a poor welcome home. But this is not the only reason that they have a negative perception of the war. Soldiers like Conrad and Roxana Robinson Sparta receive a very nice welcome home, but still have negative perceptions of the war. As a result of this negative perception, he convinces his brother not to join the Marines. In a way, Conrad is following Earhart's advice by convincing his brother not to join the Marines. Although it's not in the manner that Earhart would advise, Conrad's actions are causing his brother to think critically about his decisions, and I think in Earhart's opinion, it's a step in the right direction. Thank you.